Hi, everyone. This is Jose Velasquez with Higher Military. Thanks so much for showing up and for participating in today's event. So, first things first, this segment is sponsored by American Corporate Partners. ACP's free mentoring program connects vets, active duty, and military spouses with corporate professionals for customized mentorships. And as a matter of fact, next Tuesday at 2 p.m., we've got a mentor and protege who will be sharing their story with us, and it's pretty inspiring. I think that you'll definitely want to tune in. But right now, I want to introduce you to J.R. Arce, who's a Waza Media founder and CEO. I would assume that's your title, your full title. He is a veteran and he's got an incredible story. Really looking forward to hearing from him and some tips that hopefully he will share with us that can help those of you who are in the midst of your transition and inspire those of you that might have already transitioned as well. So, JR, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and and your transition experience, which seemed unique, and I think you were overseas when it occurred.
That's correct. My veteran transition did happen when I was overseas, but let's start at the beginning. It's a good place to start, as the song goes. I had a ROTC scholarship into a nursing program from California State University, Fresno. That's out in California. That was my way into commissioning as a second lieutenant in the United States Army in the Army Nurse Corps. A little bit later on, after going to Korea and then after being in Germany, I learned about the public affairs career, and I did everything I could to find myself to transition over. And I was able to do that by switching from the Army Reserve, from the active duty component to the reserve. I did start taking public affairs roles in 2015 with 30th Medical Brigade, and then I became a detachment commander that was my first Army Reserve position in 2016 at the end of that year. And so that was where that was part of my transition from being active duty to Army Reserve and civilian. So that happened in Kaiserslautern, Germany in 2016. And so after learning about the reserve and all it has, I learned that this is how I really want to continue to serve my country, not as a nurse, but as a communicator, to tell the Army story wherever and as far as the reaches that I could go to. And so not only did I continue to work on my transition while I was still living in Germany, because I was, I think the term is dependopotamus, Jose. So I was married to an active duty. She was Army Nurse Corps, and she was active duty, and that's what allowed me to stay in Germany while she was working at Landstuhl Regional Medical Center, and while I was a commander of the Public Affairs Detachment under 7th MSC. So both of us being there really helped us allow to do the things that we wanted to do. My wife wanted to be a nurse, and I wanted to be a communicator, and Germany was the best place for us. And then our time came to a close living overseas in 2018, where we came back to America, not by choice, when my wife decided to ETS, and the only place that we could go was back to America. So we packed up everything. We packed up our 1-year-old at the time, and we came to America with our savings and a prayer that either my wife or myself would have a job lined up. And for those who know about that, that is a very, very scary time where you're not sure anything is going to happen. And I feel it's by the grace of God that within about a month or two being back in America in 2018, the interview for a contracted speechwriter that I did in June while I was on a mission in Lithuania. Imagine doing a phone interview or a Skype interview with your potential boss while you're on an exercise in the middle of Lithuania. Cell phone service isn't great out there, let me just tell you that. But I was able to secure a contract speechwriting job a couple months after coming back to America. So total time of being unemployed from active duty to a position was 18 months.
Wow. That's wild. That's wild. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of people, may not be prepared sometimes for the difficulties and the unexpected moments throughout that career. People love your mug, by the way. It's trending right now in the comment section. Everybody wants to
For,
know, what about the mug.
So about the mug, it says, do more of what makes you happy, and this kind of goes along with the mantra of what I've gone with, especially coming from Army Nurse Corps and loved doing nursing. I loved my patients, and I loved my the medics that I worked with and the staff. But I learned that being a nurse was not meant for me. That was the dream my parents had for me. And for anyone who has grown up in Filipino or Asian cultures, we know that a lot of our parents' dreams are drilled into us, and we as children are sought out into the world to live our parents' dream.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do that anymore. I decided to make a career change that I felt was best for me and how I wanted to serve my country as a communicator. And so this tiny mug, as the comments are saying, is an espresso mug and is a reminder to me and why I've decided to make this drastic career change a little bit later in life, and how it's being more purposeful and meaningful for me.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. And so you started this company as well, this media company, and I mean that's a leap of faith in itself, is entrepreneurship. And I know that it's not for everyone, but what are your thoughts? I mean, for people that might be in our comments and might be watching that are interested in entrepreneurship, whether that's kind of a side gig or whether that's full time work.
So a little bit about Waza Media. Waza Media is a digital marketing agency. We're out in the Washington D.C. area. I actually became a partner last year, actually about a month before this whole crazy pandemic came about. It was founded by my partner Andrew Milner, who's a Marine Corps veteran, in 2013. And he's been serving the DMV area here in the Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, and Maryland area for quite some time. And it was through our friendship and that we developed that we knew that we had the same mindset, we had the same goals, and we decided to go into business together. So I became an official partner last year, and I am running as the CEO, managing the operations of the company. And to the point that you made, Jose, it is a side gig. I still am serving as a government public affairs professional, working media relations. It's fantastic. It's a lot of it's one of those things where you don't know what to expect coming into work, but that's what's exciting for me. Jose, I remember your interview with Jason Brown and talking about working in the DC area. There's a certain stress level that's here, and I'd like to say I'm still young enough that I enjoy that type of stress level. I like that kind of work, and I think I'd like to pursue the stresses of what's going on in every day, especially being closer to the flagpole. Our Washington D.C. is a stone throw away from where I am, and everything that happens there happens what I do, and I like being in the middle of everything.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. And you know what's interesting too is I think that it's really important to recognize that really there are stages to everybody's life. Those aren't, clear cut. And people who are transitioning are focused on different situations. So some people want to go to, Fort Living Room, North Carolina somewhere, or Texas. And then some people are more interested in, really kind of getting back into the workforce, in the fast-moving pace of large cities. And so I think it's important that when we're highlighting veterans across the board, and not just either retiring members who are ready to kind of hang out and do a very light kind of job, but also members who are jumping right back into the workforce, taking chances with entrepreneurship, and also working in major cities and that kind of thing. So that's pretty terrific. We've got people that are in our comment section from all over the world, some from overseas, and then of course also seems like half of them are from Texas. I guess nobody's working in Texas right now. What's going on, guys? I'm thankful you're here. So okay. So tell us about what attracted you to public affairs. I mean, talk about a completely different situation from your time as a nurse. And I appreciate your comment about our parents, from especially for people whose family members are directly from another country and come here to realize their dreams. and sometimes may just not be able to at that point in their lives realize their dreams. And sometimes, we children tend to be kind of saddled with that responsibility of living that. But it sounds like you got to the point where you were ready to make the transition. Why public affairs?
Coming into public affairs was actually kind of an accident. And an interesting part was I almost got in trouble. Take that back. I got in trouble. I got a counseling statement for trying to better my career. So what had happened was I learned that there was a positioning opening up at 30th Medical Brigade. The PAO was leaving, and I inquired about, is this positioning going to be open, and what's the process? So I asked about the process, and I was told, do this, do that, and it was more asking about questions. What do I need to get? And as I was emailing the adjutant, I found out that my inquiry of what the process was became an application. And then I got accepted. So it was really an accident, and my full-board colonel didn't like it because she was managing staff. We were on missions to go provide medical support for not only in Europe but also in Africa and also CENTCOM. So in the Middle East, we were all over the place, and she was managing staffing. And I do have to side with her and say, yes, I understand, knowing that this is going on behind the scenes doesn't look right. However, it wasn't my fault. I had no control over the situation. I was inquiring about questions, and it got out of my control, and then I got accepted. And the reason why I got accepted was of my portfolio, my photography portfolio. While I was doing nursing and practicing nursing as an Army Nurse Corps officer, I had picked up the camera since high school, dabbled in journalism, took journalism courses, and picked up the camera and just started running with it. And it wasn't until I learned that I could do it pretty well, was until I picked up a mentorship under Peter Hurley. He's a world-renowned headshot photographer out of New York City. So I went under his leadership and also his instruction, and I learned about headshot photography, the business of it, the art, the psychology of headshot photography, what it really means to point a camera into someone's face. Now, as being in the military, there is a distinct reaction we get from people when we point a rifle or a weapon in front of someone's face. But a camera, and Jose, I'm sure you know this being a broadcast background yourself, people flip out when you point a camera at them. So you have to reel them back in, and that's where the psychology part goes. So learning under Peter Hurley, I was intrigued in how he approached photography, more specifically headshot photography and portraits. I loved it, and I built my portfolio under his mentorship, and that's what the leadership at 30th Medical Brigade saw, along with the other items that they saw in my inquiry became application. And now I've been able to cross over from being an Army Nurse Corps officer to a public affairs professional, having graduated DINFOS in 2017, where I actually last saw you during our breakout session. So that was the last time I saw you face to face, Jose.
Oh man, so Derek Witherspoon asks, what would you have done differently concerning your transition from the military to the civilian job force?
Thank you, Derek, for your question. The only issue that I have with the question is that with my specific situation, I transitioned out when I was in Germany, which is not usually the normal case for most veterans, that especially with those in my veteran community and even talked to. When I was transitioning out, I was also applying for jobs in the Kaiserslautern area. And so learning about how GSA jobs works and learning about what the rules are and being a dependopotamus actually became advantageous. Learning that the spouses of active duty soldiers and service members get higher priority, believe it or not, higher than certain veterans status. So that's something on the HR part that I learned while I was overseas. And so timing was something that I couldn't control. It was time for me to go. But the other part that was important was making sure finances were taken care of. So what I would highly, highly recommend as you're in your last year before you completely transition out, you need to make sure you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses. You need to have that saved up just in case anything happens. As I mentioned earlier, my wife and I and my family, with my daughter, we moved to America. No job lined up, so we lived on our savings for about a month or two before we got our feet back on the ground with steady income that was predictable to come in. We don't know what's going to happen, so that's why it's important to have your finances covered, that you can put food on the table, a roof over your head, pay some bills, feed your family. It would have been different. It would have been different if it was just by myself, Jose, but I have a family, and I brought a family over from Germany back to America, and they're my number one priorities to make sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. And I think that's so incredibly important. Of course, listen, we all, I shouldn't say we all, some people are just smart from the very beginning, but the vast majority of us make money mistakes when we're young. And sometimes that can be difficult to get out of those holes. But the reality is, once you start seeing life on the other side of your uniform, however long that is, if it's 5 years, if it's 4 years, if it's a year, whatever you can do to lower the bills so that you have more freedom to take care of the things you got to take care of and be prepared for the emergencies. Murphy, I hear, is alive and well in transition. So, absolutely incredibly important and great advice, by the way. And
Murphy happens in threes.
Yeah.
Murphy happens in threes, always.
Yep. They're all unexpected. So Cedric asks, what advice could you provide to service members seeking entrepreneurship, as in resources? What did you use?
So the resources that I used were related to the experience I had in headshot photography. So I had built my network prior to getting out. And no matter what service branch you are, if you're in logistics, if you're a quartermaster, if you're in communications, you need to start building your network now. And it doesn't even have to be military affiliated. Most of the resources that I used that were related to entrepreneurship were related to headshot photography. Under Peter Hurley, my mentor in headshot photography, he has created a community of headshot photographers. And if you go to headshotcrew.com, you'll find this network. So that was where I found my community. I had resources available, and I also was able to tap into the knowledge and expertise of other individuals who were running their own business. So build your network, find your community, and then build your resources from there.
Yeah, and let me just share that. Of course, we're on live on 3 incredible platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And each one of those has inherent gains, pros and cons. But I'll just share with you that looking into finding mentors, networks ahead of time before you ever need anything is the best time to do it. And and each one of those, you can look in Facebook groups and find groups of like-minded people. You can look for educational products on YouTube. People are all over YouTube sharing what they know about practically any subject. Don't let me get on there and spend the next 14 hours going down rabbit holes. Sometimes I wish I hadn't. And then LinkedIn, the professional networking site, and finding people with like-minded interests, so that when you're ready to make that transition, you've got people in your corner that have the knowledge and experience. So that's great advice as well. So I appreciate it, because go ahead.
One platform that I've recently dived into lately to get more business advice is Clubhouse. Clubhouse is an audio-only platform that's currently invite-only and only on iOS devices. I was fortunate enough that a former military supervisor, a former raider of mine in the Nurse Corps, she was able to bring me in to this invite-only platform. So very, very gracious to her for letting me in. But there's tons of rooms where you can drop in on conversations about marketing, business. There's even veterans that have these rooms where you can just chat in. You can ask your questions. It's still, because the invite only, I feel it's still in beta, and they're trying to get collection of data to see how well this works. And I'm sure this will go live to the public sometime soon. But if you can get an invite to Clubhouse and explore some of the knowledge that people are dropping in these rooms, and these people are active 24 hours 7 days of the week, just sharing and networking, from talking with people all over the world. It's been my favorite platform as of recent, to get some great business advice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think regardless of platform, ultimately it's about finding people who are either doing what you want to do, or at least in the same industry or space that you're interested in. And I think I would say secondly, and I know I'm interviewing you, so I shouldn't be answering my own questions, but just from my personal experience, secondly is, sometimes as people are getting out, they may not know exactly what they want to do, but they may have some common interests. And so, finding those networks of people and following them, watching what they talk about, Clubhouse, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and reading the things that they're talking about, or listening to them, or watching them, gives you an idea as to what that business is all about. And you may find that, this isn't something that I'm as interested in. I didn't know it was like this. Or I have this great passion as I'm listening to people. I mean, you're obviously incredibly passionate about the art and creativity behind photography and the visuals. So you found that, and that's pretty impressive. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more. So thank you, by the way, to everyone in our comment section. What I found, JR, is a lot of times people will have side items and will support each other, using links to different support sites, and so I appreciate that. Please continue to do that in the comment section. So okay, so you've transitioned, you're back stateside, and you started working. Now, of course, you had your day job, and then you had this business job. What were some of the more difficult moments that obviously we'd love to believe it's all sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. And you said, Murphy comes in threes. Can you share a couple of those challenging times and maybe how you overcame them?
The biggest thing coming back to America and trying to set up back my side gigs again was learning the legal process of how each state does business. And so because of my lack of knowledge of that, the biggest thing that helped me out was tapping into my resources. And so either connecting with local business partners, or other businesses that are in the same field, either on LinkedIn or on Facebook groups. So getting the information. If you don't know the information, find the people who know the information. And the other part is Google is your friend. Google can really help you out. And Jose, you mentioned YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that had been difficult is, now I mentioned earlier that I came to America with my family and my 1-year-old daughter. As of today, I have a 3-year. My daughter is now 3, and my son is 2. So they're very close in age, and they take a lot of time and energy out of me. And so the biggest thing is that when I am in business mode, that I set aside and I block that time. So that way, that's business mode. But then I also block time that this is dad mode. I am running the household. I am taking care of the kids. I'm taking care of their needs, because at this point in time, they are my priority. And then I need to block time for my wife, for my spouse, because she's important too. She's very, very important. And so prioritizing the things that need to be done and the people that I care for is the most important thing, because there's only 24 hours in the day, and we all have the same. That's the same thing. That's the greatest equalizer, is our time. Mm-hmm. And so how I manage my time is important. So no video games. I got to cut back on the Netflix. I am so behind. There's so many good shows out there that I keep hearing about. So I just got to hide them on the feeds. So that way, no spoilers. And it just comes down, what's the priority? If the priority right now is to grow myself professionally as a public affairs professional, I need to do that. I need to take my courses. I'm starting a new course next month under Seth Godin's Alt MBA program. I'm trying to get into FEMA's Advanced Public Information Officer course. Homeland Security's got great programs on there. I want to grow myself there, but I also want to grow my business because I know my business, along with my business partner, that'll set the legacy for when I go, and also that'll be an income stream in which my family and generations to come. I want to break. I want to create a new cycle when it comes to leaving my family legacy, and so this business has a part of that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So look, Karen's asking about a link to your photography.
Yes, I will gladly put that in the chat, and I think I have the ability to do that
Yeah, go ahead.
on this platform. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I will go ahead and do that.
Okay. Hey, so no, I think that's terrific. Now, what part did mentors have in your transition? I love the fact that you talked about stepping outside of just military members, and that's incredibly important. I think the likelihood is you probably had some uniform military members, but in addition to that, there's no limit on how many mentors you have, and sometimes having mentors that are outside of our military box can be very helpful. Was that your experience?
That is correct. And the biggest part that helped me was being in the reserve, and as a pad commander and a public affairs professional in the Army Reserve, I've been able to work with lots of great people who are public affairs professionals in the military side, but who have outstanding careers on the civilian side. So I believe, especially working on military public affairs operations in Europe, where some of my broadcasters and some of my writers that worked for me in the pad, they were in uniform. They served United States Army and our nation in uniform, but on their day job, they work for Germany. They work for a German company, and so they became very useful when we're doing U.S. German joint exercises, and they could do language translation. They could give me insight into what the background is, so that way that helps me help guide what the story should be, what should be our angle to make sure that we promote this exercise and the unity of this operation between both us and the host nation. And so being able to tap into those civilian careers of my soldiers is an awesome thing to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you what, I found that mentors were an incredible part of my transition journey, and it sounds like they were for you as well. And I'll tell you, we sometimes we just don't know, and it's one of those things you don't know that you're in it until you're not in it. But we do tend to think alike because we're in uniform and we have uniform thoughts sometimes. And while sometimes we think we are very open-minded, we aren't always. And please know, I'm not saying everyone fits in this situation, but I found for myself, I thought I was pretty open-minded about things. And then I got to my first meeting with civilians, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? This isn't how we hold military meetings. And that was awesome because I needed to learn that. Is that I wasn't in the business of preparing to military. I wasn't going to go be a militarier. As I moved forward, I was on my way to doing other things in the civilian sector, and I really needed to learn that. So some mentors I had were very, very powerful in their support of me. So that's a terrific response that you had. So in addition to that, obviously your transition now, you're stateside, your business is going, you're still maintaining a civilian job at this point, and I assume if the business takes off, then maybe life will change a little bit for you. So what are your recommendations for people who are transitioning and may want to use one of the services that provide internships or fellowships? Did you consider that? And if not, thinking back on it, would that have been helpful to you?
With how I came to be working in government sector as a public affairs professional, I took the advice of some of my mentors coming into the DC area. And of course, your mileage may vary, but what happened for me was while I was looking into government work, I was highly looking on the contract side. And knowing what happens on the contract side is actually been helpful for me as a government employee. And this goes along with broadening your spectrum and broadening your knowledge, and not having those blindfolds on, those side blinds. I'm thinking about those horses, the side blinders, about just looking at only one way of doing things. And I think that's, you brought it on about how what we're made to think in the military. But the world is vast, and there's experiences that other people have, and by being able to dabble into different fields, you're able to gain knowledge and expertise from different areas to better yourself. So what happened for me was starting out as a contracted speechwriter, and then eventually moving on to working at the Pentagon as a social media manager for the Marine Corps, specifically Installations Command, and then working now with my current job, working for Veterans Affairs.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So listen, we're at the about 35-minute mark, and I know you've got a day job and a night job, and you got to get home to mama and the babies as well after the end of that day. So it is Friday. So I definitely want to thank you for being with us, and I want to open the door to you for any last minute advice, piece of advice that you would share with our audience.
Thank you, Jose. The biggest thing I want to share with your audience is that this is your life. You are the one living it, and I learned later in life that is true. I don't need to live what my parents have set out for me. You have your own choices. Your parents are not living your life. You are living your life. So you need to find your purpose. You need to find your meaning. You need to find a way of making your legacy last. And find the people, the resources in your community to help you get there, because this is your life.
JR, that's terrific. And what a high note we can end on. I want to thank you for taking time to share your experience with the veteran community, and anyone transitioning from one business to another altogether. It means a lot, and the fact that veterans are willing to step back and extend their arms out and help others means a lot. So we very much appreciate it, and we look forward to following you. I didn't see in the comment section where your website came up, but what is it?
So my photography website is jekuarce.com. That's JEKUARCE.com. And then if you're looking for a digital media agency to help you take your storytelling to the next level, it's waza.media, WAZA.media. And we'll be happy to help you.
I added those into the comment section for anyone who's interested. So again, JR, very much appreciated. And I want to invite all of our members who are in the midst of their transition to consider using Hire Military. Of course, you can see the banner there, hiremilitary.us. Encourage you to go over there, because Hire Military US allows people internships or helps individuals find meaningful, lasting relationships with companies through internships and fellowships. And by the way, it starts on your timeline, which is great. And secondly, over 90% of our people end up working in those companies that they start at. So it's a great starting point for many people. And so I encourage people to go over there and check that out. Again, JR, thank you for your time. Really appreciate that. And we will continue to do these, because I think that they make a huge difference in our veteran community. JR, thanks again, and we will talk again soon.